Section 51 of 5-Minute Stories. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Sonia. 5-Minute Stories by Laura E. Richards. The Fireworks. Once upon a time, a little girl went to see the fireworks on Boston Common. She was a very small girl, but she wanted to go just as much as if she had been big, so her mother said she might go with Mary, the nurse. She put on her best bonnet and her pink frock, and off they went. The common was crowded with people, and in one part there was a dense throng, all standing together, and all looking in one direction. "We must stand there too," said Mary. "That's where the fireworks are going to be." So they went and stood in the dense crowd, and the little girl saw the back of a fat woman in a red plaid shawl, but she could not see anything else. Oh yes, she saw the legs of the tall man who stood next to the fat woman, but they were not very interesting, being clad in a common sort of dark plaid. The shawl, at least, was bright, and she could tell the different colors by the lamplight. Now there was a movement in the crowd, and people cried, "Oh, oh, look at that! Isn't that a beauty?" And they clapped their hands and shouted, but the little girl saw only the plaid shawl and the uninteresting legs of the tall man. The people pressed closer and closer, so that she could hardly breathe. She held tight to Mary's hand, and Mary thought she was squeezing it for pleasure, and said, "Yes, dear, ain't they lovely?" The little girl tried to say, "I can't see anything but the plaid shawl," but just then the tall man turned round and looked down on her and said, "Bless me, here's a little girl right under my feet. Can you see anything, my dear?" "Nothing but the red shawl and the back of your legs," said the little girl sadly. "Hi, then," said the tall man, "up with you!" And before the child could say a word, he had taken her two hands and lifted her lightly to his shoulder. "Put your arm round my neck," said the tall man. "I had a little girl once, just like you, and I know how to hold you. So, now you are all right." "Thank the kind gentleman, dear," said Mary. "I'm sure it's very good of him." The little girl was too shy to speak, but she patted the tall man's neck, and he understood as well as if she had spoken. Now she saw wonderful sights indeed. Fiery serpents went up into the sky, wriggling and hissing, dragging long tails of yellow flame behind them. Colored stars, red, blue, and green, shot up in the air, hung for an instant, and then burst into showers of rainbow light. There were golden pigeons, and golden flower pots, and splendid wheels that went whirling round so fast it made the little girl dizzy to look at them. The child gazed and gazed, breathless with delight. Sometimes she forgot where she was, and thought this was fairyland, all full of golden dragons and fluttering elves, as the story books described it. But if she chanced to look down, there was Mary, and the kind face of the tall man, and the red shawl of the fat woman. By and by came a great burst of light, and in the midst of crimson flames she saw the Goddess of Liberty, standing on a golden ball, waving the starry flag in her hand. Thousands of stars shot up, blazed and burst, loud noises were heard like cannon shots. Then suddenly darkness fell, and all was over. The crowd began to disperse. "Now, little one," said the tall man, "you have seen all there is to see." And he made a motion to put her down, but the little girl clung tight to his neck. "Did your little girl ever kiss you?" she whispered in his ear. "Bless your little heart," said the man, "she did indeed, but it's long since I've had a little girl to kiss me." The child bent down and kissed him heartily on the cheek. "If it hadn't been for you," she cried, "I should have seen nothing at all except the plaid shawl. I think you are the kindest man that ever lived, and I love you very much." And then she slipped down, and taking her nurse's hand, ran away home as fast as she could. End of the Fireworks,